This is the Conservative American Message, hosted by the one and only Cam Lau. It's Saturday, January 21st, 2023, and you can join me every Saturday to hear the greatest political content known to man. I have very exciting news this week. The Conservative American Message is now available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Audible, Anchor, and of course, Spotify. So go ahead and share it with your family, your friends, everybody. We also plan to start a YouTube channel soon, so that is another thing I've got in the works. Well, let's get to it. State legislators in Wyoming have proposed a bill to ban electric vehicles. Yup, you heard that right. While in California, Canada, and other communist governments, they're pushing for bans on gas-powered cars, Wyoming is moving in the other direction. They intend to ban the sale of new electric vehicles by 2035. Supporters of the bill have pointed to Wyoming's oil and gas industry and all of the jobs and value created by the industry in their state. It's really no different than states whose economies rely heavily on crop production and they support ethanol fuels. This Wyoming bill also cites the lack of charging stations across their state and the amount of additional energy they would be required to produce to support an increase in electric vehicles on the road. You guys might have noticed that I've been focusing a lot more on state governments than federal government, and that's because the fight for this nation is still happening in state legislators, state supreme courts, and with conservative governors. The federal government is not working to serve the American people. It doesn't matter if they're Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Communists. Congress will not save you. I think it was Princeton that did this study, but regardless of who did it, there was a study done that found that Congress has a 30% chance of passing any bill, regardless of public support. It didn't matter if it was a bipartisan issue or a controversial and polarizing one. The United States Congress has a 30% chance of passing it. But your state government is different. They are people you know in your community, and they're often more accountable to their constituents than their party leadership or their special interests. Not everywhere is perfect, and some states just suck, but they better represent their population than the federal government does. But coming back to electric vehicles, Harley Davidson's CEO has announced that the company will be transitioning to, in the long term, going to fully electric bikes. This is so confusing to me. Why do companies continue to go woke even if they lose money? How many Harley guys want to have an electric? It's just so off-brand. I mean, imagine Sturgis is going to take a month for everyone to just get there by the time they stop every 75 miles to charge for an entire day. What a joke. And after all of it, they will have impacted the global temperature by precisely 0 degrees. Speaking of the global temperature, the world's top climate expert was detained by German police at a protest outside of a coal mine. And by a climate expert, I mean a completely unqualified kid who wants to scream at the world until it adheres to her unscientific claims. Greta Thunberg was protesting the expansion of a mine in Germany at a site with a big pit that was clearly not safe to gather 300 protesters near to. Police had to forcefully move her back after she got way too close to the pit and refused to step back for her own safety. Greta Thunberg, the epitome of white privilege, is the Swedish climate activist who started the strikes against schools demanding that the government responded to climate demands in 2018. Now, first of all, you can't really go on strike against a school. I mean, students aren't the employees and they don't produce anything. A public school is going to receive their money whether you attend or not. But I guess Greta founded this organization, and she calls it Fridays for Future. And I went to their website to find out what their demands are. They have 3. Number 1, they want to keep the global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is about 34 degrees in Fahrenheit. So that's actually a pretty attainable goal. Now, I do want to be clear, Greta Thunberg is not a scientist, and she has no qualifications to speak on climate whatsoever. Number 2, ensure climate justice and equity. Okay, so now we're entering the world of the insane. As we have seen time and again, justice and equity can mean pretty much whatever they need it to. And number 3, listen to the best united science currently available. Now, this sounds pretty good in theory, but Al Gore didn't invent the internet, he invented global warming. And when Al Gore says that 99% of scientists agree with him, they polled any and all scientists, not just climatologists. If you actually listen to people who are doing the research on this stuff, the consensus is not so clear as they would lead you to believe. But I won't get into that today. I'm planning on doing a deep dive into climate change this spring when we start releasing our deep dive episodes. But the sad part is that you can't even hardly be a conservative anymore without having to follow these so-called conspiracy theories that scientists are lying and whatnot. But they can't really be called conspiracy theories when they actually prove to be true. This is also proving to be the case with the COVID vaccine, as the CDC is investigating the safety of the vaccines that they still continue to promote, as young people across the nation have continued unexplained cardiac issues. The Connecticut legislature has proposed a bill that would allow 12-year-olds to make health decisions for themselves without their parents' consent. The FDA has approved the shot for children as young as 6 months. For goodness sake, people, don't give experimental medicine to kids that young. This bill has so far been put in committees, but they have mentioned that this will likely give 12-year-olds even more healthcare choices than just the COVID vaccine. But I can't buy a lottery ticket because I'm only 20. The whole age of majority thing is a mess in this country. You can vote, enroll in selective service, enter a contract, get a tattoo, all at 18, but you can't buy alcohol or nicotine, and in some states you can't even gamble until you're 21. I think it should be a free-for-all when you graduate high school. Now, all that can be a conversation for another time, but I think that we can all agree that 12-year-olds are not ready for any of that type of responsibility. We don't even allow them to drive yet. Surely they aren't mature enough to decide if they want to risk infertility and heart problems for life. Sure, this is the land of the free, and you have the freedom to make your own choices, but let's let kids be kids a little bit longer, please. Well, that's all I have time for. Were you offended by this podcast? Good. If you want me to talk about something on the show, let me know at the Conservative American Message on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate you all. Have a great week and stay conservative.